Exercise 3. In this exercise, we're going to learn how to use some of the secondary features inside SolidWorks, like some more advanced filleting functions, as well as some additional properties when extruding and sketching. To begin, make sure you start by going to File, New, and select Part. And then from there, just make sure you go to your Tools and Options up at the top here, and be sure that your document properties are set to ANSI for the standard, and then go to Units and be sure that you're set to IPS for inch, pound, second, and the decimal places should be set to 3. Then hit OK at the bottom. Let me clear my screen off a little bit here. Okay, so we begin by selecting the front plane, click on it from the feature tree, and you could click on the quick launch that appears right above it, or you could go to the sketch up here and click on the little pencil icon for sketch. Now that we're sketching, we begin by just, we're actually going to draw a center line. So go up here to the top where it says line, select center line, and draw a center line from the origin straight up, maybe about 2.5 inches or so. And then hit escape on your keyboard. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take the line tool over here, just the standard line, not a center line, and over to the left of this we're just going to draw a little line that's in alignment with the origin, and maybe about an inch high and at a slight angle. Do not draw it vertical. You don't want to snap to vertical. You want it off at an angle a little bit, just like what I have here. Okay, then hit escape again on your keyboard. And we're going to review a little bit of mirroring. Now to mirror this, we could click on the mirror icon right up here at the top, Mirror Entities, select the entity to mirror, and then over to the left here you can see there's Mirror About. Click in that box to change it to the blue color. Then click on the line you want to use as the mirror line, in this case our vertical center line. And you'll see a preview of the actual line that it's mirroring. Go ahead and hit the Apply or Enter. The next thing we want to do, we want to draw a tangent arc at the top and the bottom of these two lines. So find the tangent arc tool. It's under arcs here, and tangent arc, and glide up to one of the ends, click, and hold down and drag, and connect it to the other side. Release it. Do the same at the bottom. Click and hold down the left mouse button, drag, and connect. Hit apply, which is the green check mark, or enter. Okay, now that we have our geometry ready, we want to add the smart dimensions. So go up to smart dimension and dimension the smallest thing first, which is at the bottom, which is going to be 0.6. It's the bottom arc. And then dimension the top arc, which will be 0.75. And then dimension between the center points. Now if you have a difficult time selecting the center points here, you could actually select the outside of the arcs, and it will automatically go to the center points, as you can see here. Click to drop it once you drag it to the right, and that's going to be 0.75. I'm just going to scroll up a little bit and hit apply. Maybe get these in a little closer. Now we can still see it's blue, the geometry that is. The blue geometry indicates that it's underdefined. What we need to do is we need to lock it into something. And what we neglected to do was lock in some, probably a piece of this geometry to the red origin that we see here. So what you want to do is if you click on the bottom arc, you can see it highlights the whole arc, and then it also highlights the center point of the arc in blue. Grab that center point. Now here's a little piece of advice. You're going to drag it with the left mouse button depressed over it. You have to be very accurate. The tip of your pointer has to be right on that dot. And you're going to drag it down. But, a little hint, SolidWorks doesn't like short distances to move or drag. So if I drag this down, I got lucky and actually snapped. But if it doesn't, drag it far down and then drag it back up. And then release the left mouse button. And it should turn black. If it doesn't turn black, try it again. Click on that center point, drag it far away, drag it right back up. Okay, now that we have that, we're ready to extrude it. So now we could go to Features up at the top left and Extrude Boss Base. Now instead of just going in one direction of the sketch, instead of selecting blind, we could hit the little arrow to the right of it and we'll see several options. The one at the bottom is called mid-plane. Select mid-plane. And then make the thickness 1 inch. You could just type 1. And then right below it here, on the lower left, you'll find draft on off. Make sure you select that. That will add draft onto the model. And bump that up to 7 degrees. You could type it in, or you could just hit this little arrow up till you got 7, and you can see the preview update with draft. So there's an angle or taper on that geometry. And this is so it could be pulled from a mold. If you select draft outward, you could see the result. That would not pull out of a mold very well. Just think of an ice cube tray. Do you think you could pull an ice cube out of something like that? No. So make sure draft outward is turned off. Okay, hit the green check mark to apply. And now you've just finished the head of the body, this ratchet that we're going to be building. So what we can do here is, eventually we're going to have lots of features on the feature tree. We could change the names here. If you click once on the text and then count 1/1000, click a second time, you could actually start typing in a value after the second click. And in this case, we're going to call it the head. And then click anywhere in the screen to apply it. Alright, the next thing we want to do is we want to learn how to offset a plane. We've used the planes that are in there right now. There's a front, the top, and the right. But now I want to show you how to create a plane. There's several ways of doing it. We'll go through, every exercise has a new way that you'll learn. Today's exercise just has this way. To offset a plane so we could sketch on it, simply select the plane that you want to offset. In this case, it's the top plane. Now, there is up here under Reference Geometry the Plane Wizard. Now we'll see that later, but instead I'm going to show you a different method. You actually hold the Control key down through this whole process, grab the thin blue geometry of the plane, not the ends or the corners where you see those dots. Stay away from the dots. That will just expand the boundary. You actually want to grab it with the left mouse button and drag. As soon as you start dragging away, you could release the Control key. And now I could drag it, and over to the left we actually see some information as to how far we dragged it. Here under distance we could type in an explicit value. In this case we want it to be 4 for 4 inches. And make sure that the plane is going below where the 600,000th radius was. You don't want it to go up. If that happens, there is a reverse switch right over here which will flip it. Okay, but once you have 4 in there, just go ahead and hit the green check mark to apply. And now we have a new plane called Plane 1. It automatically names it in order as they're created, and it's offset 4 inches. If for some reason you hit enter too quickly and you didn't get to actually type in the value, it's very easy to change. You just double click on the plane, and the 4-inch dimension or whatever dimension should appear there. You could double click on that and type in a new value if you need to update it. Now if your plane is hidden, that might be because under View you have the ability to hide planes. So if I click on planes here, it's hidden. If I go into View, I could click on it again and it shows. So that's your toggle. Now what we want to do is we actually want to sketch on the plane. Since we could see it here, we could actually click on it and we get the quick launch for sketch. Otherwise, select it from the tree or select it right here and go to Sketch at the top. The origin is actually a projected origin from the true one that's in the center of your model. So we know it's centered at this time. So what we can do is we can actually take the circle tool and we're going to draw a 1/2-inch diameter circle right on that origin. So click on the origin, you'll get a little marker to let you know that you're on it. Hold the left mouse button down and drag out the circle. The size doesn't matter just yet, as we are going to now go to Smart Dimension and constrain it. So select the outside of the circle with the tip of your pointer, drag it out about a 45-degree angle, click to drop it, and type in, and be careful, it was selecting my plane for some reason to dimension to. Move far enough away so it doesn't select the plane. Okay, and type in 0.5 and hit enter, or the green check mark. Okay, now we want to make this transition, or the shaft that goes right into the base of our model. So we could go to Features over here, up at the top, go to Extrude Boss Base, and now we could select a blind depth, but what we might actually want to do is a little different. We should probably go over here, instead of blind, there's something better. There's up to body. And if up to body doesn't show, that means that your extrusion is pointing the wrong way or there's nothing to go up to. So if it's not there, that means something's wrong. But most likely just rebuild and start a new sketch, try it over again. But anyway, click up to body, and then over here we have the direction of extrusion, and over here it's the solid body or surface body. Go ahead and select the head, and now we'll go right up to it and merge with it. The benefit to this is that if you ever lengthen the shaft for some reason, this will always maintain that it connects itself to the head versus it separating at some point in time if you go too far and if you type in an explicit value for the depth of the head. Alright, now I am going a little bit out of order for the manual. In the manual we actually start working on the top of the head here. That's okay, we'll go back to that in a little bit, so I apologize if we're not following the manual explicitly, but we will go back to that. Now we want to make the handle section. So what I want to do is I'm going to right click on this and I'm going to hide it. And right over here there's the set of eyeglasses for hide. Now we're going to select the front plane. And right away I'll click on the sketch for quick launch. So we started a sketch on it, or you could have gone to sketch and clicked on that. And now let's go normal 2. And over here we have all of our different views. We'll go normal 2 and zoom out a little bit. And now we need to make the handle. The handle is nothing more than a rectangle with some draft on it and fillets. So let's do this, and it needs to be centered. We're going to actually use the corner rectangle, and just out here to the left or to the right, drag out a rectangle. Doesn't really matter what size, as we're going to change it in a little bit. And the next thing is go over here to center line, and with your center line selected, glide up to the midpoint of the top of the rectangle you just drew. Click and drag it straight up, and then hit escape on your keyboard. Okay, now what we can do is we're going to go ahead and add some dimensions on here. Let's go dimension it right now while we're here. The length of the handle is going to be 4 inches. The length of this center line is going to be 3.75, and the width will be 1 inch. Hit apply to exit the sketch. Now what we want to do is we want to get this point on that center point. This is all you do. Glide your tip of your pointer over it. Make sure you hit escape a couple times just in case you're still in sketch mode. Hold the left mouse button down and drag it. And you just basically drag it to the origin. It will snap in and you're fully defined. Okay, now we just have to go to Features, Extrude Boss, and instead of blind, let's go with midplane once again, since this has to be constructed. It will be 0.75 for the depth, and we will add 7 degrees of draft once again. So it should look like this. Hit the apply button. Okay. Now we can see the feature tree. It's starting to have several items, and it's naming them just Extrude 1, Extrude 2, Extrude 3, although we changed the head. So let's click on this one. Click once, click 1000, or count 1000, click again, and type in the new value. That's going to be called the transition, or trans. And then over here, the third one is the handle. So click on that. Count 1000, click again to apply. Alright, now we need to work and focus on the head. Let's zoom up to that. Now the head here, we want to go ahead and make an offset recess. So we'll select this top face and select the sketch quick launch that appears when we select the top face. Now we're sketching on that surface. With the whole surface selected at the top, there's a neat little option here. Offset entities. While we're in the sketch, it will actually take the edges or the topology of that surface and offset it at a specific distance. In this case, the default is 100 thousandths, which just so happens to be what we want. Let's hit the reverse switch until we see that it's inside the head and hit the apply button. Now we could actually just extrude that. Go to Features, Extrude Cut, and point 1 again. Hit Enter 2 times. And now that's the recess. Let's rename that. So click on your Extrude Cut down here once, count 1,000, click a second time and start typing in recess. Now we need to make kind of like an upside down snowman pocket here. What I mean by that is you'll see in a second. I'm going to select this face here, start our sketch, and I'm going to draw 2 circles. Now this one's very easy at the bottom. Let's just drag that out. Now the next one is kind of hard. Where do I find the center? Okay, so the next one isn't quite as easy, but at the same time it actually is. As we watch here, if you need to recognize a center point, you can actually glide up to the edge of the arc and it will display the center point after you just let your pointer sit there. You don't click on anything, just let it sit there. It will wake up the center point. Now click and drag this out and have them both intersect each other like that. Let's go to Smart Dimension, and the bottom one's going to be 0.35, and the top, I'm sorry, actually that's a radius, so we want, instead of 0.35, we want that times 2. So we can actually type in times 2. Equations can be added at any time in these dialog boxes. And this will just be 1 inch. Okay, now we could learn how to use the trim tool. The trim tool you'll find right over here under Trim Entities. When you select it, you'll see there's power trim, corner trim, trim away inside, trim away outside. Make sure that it's set to trim to closest, and you can see how this works. You just click on what you don't want and it highlights up to the next intersecting edges. So if I click on that and that, I'm done. Let me undo that and show you another method. If you go back to the trim entities, there's power trim as well. Power trim, you just click and drag straight through and it automatically trims in between. So either one you could use. And now we just want to extrude cut that pocket. So we go to Features, Extrude Cut, and we make sure we specify the depth properly here. Depth is 0.75. No draft because that's going to be a machine feature. And there's our pocket. Let's name it as such. Click on the text and name it Pocket. Okay, finally, we need to make some holes. Let's select this face here, start our sketch, and just take the circle tool. And this one again is very easy, the bottom. Now this one we just have to wake up the edge, draw one there, and let's dimension it at 0.375. Now, rather than redimension this one, there is another way. We could actually establish a relationship instead of a dimension to constrain the geometry. And this is how. Hit Escape a couple times, hold the Control key down, and proceed to select both circles, the outsides of them. Now once they're both selected, you'll find over to the left the Add Relation box should automatically appear. If not, hit Escape a couple more times and try it again. But the equal button on the left is what we want to use. And now there's an equal relationship between both of them. So if this one ever changes, that one will update. Also, in the event that radii are needed instead of diameters or vice versa, a simple right click on the dimension gives you the ability to switch and toggle between them. Actually, over the left here we see the options. And now we go to Features, Extrude Cut, and we select Through All. Okay, now to add the fillets. The fillets, you just go over here to fillet, make sure it's set to 100 thousandths, and we'll get the edges on the head, bottom, and the top. And the reason why these fillet all the way around is because we established a tangent relationship in the original sketch, if you remember, when we designed the head. If there wasn't a tangent relationship or a sharp edge, they would stop at the sharp edge. But over on the left here we could see tangent propagation is automatically checked on in most cases. You could make sure that that's on, and also full preview gives you a nice preview of it. While we're still in 100 thousandths, let's go ahead and select the edges of the handle. Now in this case, let's imagine that the sharp edges on the side are our parting line edges, so it could pull out of molds. So theoretically you would not necessarily want to have those rounded, so you could leave those blank. Hit the apply button. Now let's go back to fillet and let's put in 60 thousandths radius, 0.06, and select this top edge here, this top edge here. Notice that at the sharp edges it stops because there's no tangency there, so we have to select the bottom too to ensure that our fillets are applied properly. Okay, now also you could select these edges and put that in there as well, but I'll show you a shortcut. Select the whole face because both sides need to be filleted anyway, and that's a shortcut. Not always the best thing to do. You don't always want everything filleted on the surface, but in this case it worked well. Hit apply. Alright. Now I want to show you how to put, technically this is the end of this exercise, but I'd like to show you how to put your name or some sort of information on here. To do this, we select the face and start a sketch. Take the center line tool and just draw a center line across. Now you could dimension the center line or do different things with it, but what it is, it's going to be used for our writing that we're going to put on there, for an engraving or an embossed feature. And so now we could go to Tools, Sketch Entities, the pull-down menus, and Text. Over here, we need to select the curve or curves. The text we're going to put down here, I'll go ahead and put down SolidWorks. Just typing it in. And over here you have the ability to justify it left, center, or justify it right, or spread it out. I'll spread mine out. And then down below here you have the ability to choose a different font. So turn off Use Document Font and click on Font once again and select something else, something that you might think is interesting. Anything really fancy has a tendency sometimes to not work, so the more basic ones generally will work better. The more advanced ones you may have to put in space gaps. And let me see, generally if you just want to make sure it works quickly, Impact or Hattenschweiler work very well, or Arial. I'm going to use something called Arrow. Okay, do not use the bold or bold italicized in this option. Generally it will cause a failure of the geometry simply because it starts to intersect each other. So stay away from that. But you can use the regular italic. I'm just going to keep it, I will use italicized. And then go to points and increase the points. You could put in units as well. I'll almost increase mine to 36. And we can see here that it's not fitting very well. So that could be fixed if we drag the line out a little bit further. We'd have to apply this differently. But you know, before I do that, I'm going to go back to font and I'm going to choose a smaller font. There we go, that's spread out. And hit the apply button. Now if you want to engrave it, you select Features, Extrude Cut. If you want to emboss it, you select Extrude Boss. So we want it engraved, or I do at least. You could do whatever you want. And I'm going to make this 0.03 or 30 thousandths deep and hit apply. And there is our engraving. One last thing I'd like to show you is, let's put a little grip on the base here. And what we could do for that is we could select the right, select this face here and start a sketch. And we're just going to take the corner rectangle and draw a little rectangle in here. And then I'm going to go to Features and extrude a boss about 30 thousandths high. Okay. Now I want to pattern that. Now to pattern it, we have linear pattern here. Click on linear pattern, and the direction, you have to select a vector. In this case, we can select one of these edges here. And you can see the arrow follows it and a preview shows up. We could change the spacing. We could increase the number of features we want till we fill it, and hit apply. Okay, and that concludes exercise 3.